The Ivy League philosophy regarding intercollegiate athletics is broad-based sports sponsorship. As our schools average 35 sports per school, we sponsor 33 league sports. And we also are obviously focused on academic standards and the fact that athletics is one component of the overall educational experience.
Obviously right now, and we're getting to a aspect of player safety, and it's a national story that's going on. But I think a lot of it comes back to your backgrounds. I was pretty fortunate that the first coaches I worked under were just absolutely terrific when it came to player safety. And a lot of the things that are being done now, I was fortunate to be doing 20 years ago, and it's just been part of that constant evolution of working with medical staff and other people to put the player safety as the priority.
We've seen sort of an increase in the number of concussions that have occurred or that occur, and anywhere on a course of a typical year, at least in the most recent years, anywhere from 50 to 60 concussions occur. We have 38 sports here at Princeton, 14 of which are considered high risk for concussion. A majority of our athletes that have concussions return to play. A concussion is a transient neurologic dysfunction that occurs after trauma that can either be direct or indirect. Typically you have symptoms such as confusion, disorientation, headache, dizziness, nausea, a variety of different types of symptoms that come on sequentially and then gradually resolve. Concussions are really common in a variety of sports. So sports such as football or hockey, lacrosse, pretty common injury, accounts for anywhere from 7 to 10% of the injuries that we see in a lot of collegiate athletics. I think we see more concussions now than I did maybe 5-10 years ago because of the increased media attention to the injury, an increased awareness by athletes as well as their parents and coaches, as well as the medical staff to these injuries and why they're important.
There's a huge awareness on the part of the student athletes about concussions. They're very well educated in terms of what the signs and symptoms are, and whenever anyone has a contact with a head, whether they inadvertently get hit with a stick or run into another person, they are evaluated right then and there by our athletic training staff. So there is definitely a higher incidence of reporting of concussion, a much increased awareness on the part of the student athletes. And at the university, we test them right from day one. When they're freshmen and they walk on campus, they go through concussion testing. We get baseline results. So it's very easy for the trainers and the team physicians to realize if someone has indeed suffered a concussion.
Well, I think that certainly in terms of the sports where you tend to see a lot more concussions are the ones that are contact sports. So the ones that come easiest to mind for us, football, sprint football, lacrosse, both men's and women's lacrosse, men's and women's soccer, men's and women's ice hockey. Those are all sports that are, have a pretty significant risk of having concussion. Then you add wrestling, you add pole vaulters. There are a variety of sports, field hockey, where there is the risk for either contact to the head or contact to the body that then can be transmitted to the head.
I came here, and one of the best pieces of advice I got when I left the NFL was you got to get to know the medical staff, the equipment staff, and the strength staff, because they're the eyes and ears of your team. So one of the first groups of people I met with were the medical staff, and they are just they're terrific. They're experts. I'm fortunate to be at a place where you're working with such good people. And you talk about different things, but how you practice is one of those. And that was really when I first got here, the way we practiced. Tuesdays and Wednesdays we're in full pads. Thursdays we're actually in no pads that day. And it was really a model that I thought worked in the NFL. I think it works in college. And I think it can work at any level because the emphasis is on teaching. But there are times when you are going to, if you don't teach proper tackling technique, then you're putting your players at risk. If you don't teach certain blocking techniques, you're putting your players at risk. So there's got to be a nice balance there, and I think that through Robin Harris, through the presidents, through the administrations, the Ivy League's found that balance.
The movement to reduce head impacts and concussions through athletics came about from our presidents. We were at an presidential meeting in the fall of 2009 and had a discussion about concussions particularly in football, but there was also a recognition that we needed to be aware of the possible impacts of concussion in other sports, and the presidents felt that we had enough data to know that there were issues, but that we recognized we didn't have all the data, but the presidents felt that we could not wait to get all the data. We had to take action now as a league to protect our student athletes. And so we formed a committee to look initially at football, and also, though, that committee was charged with making recommendations as to what other sports we needed to study in the future. This was all presidentially driven, but I will say that anyone that I've asked to be involved in this has readily agreed to be a participant because I think of the concern about protecting our student athletes, their welfare now and in the long run.
The Ivy League showed, I think, some great leadership and initiative in terms of trying to figure out how do we decrease the concussions as it relates to football. Initially, that's where it started, and it was meeting with coaches, medical staff, including team physicians and athletic trainers, referees, as well as administrators. And the idea being that if we could try to figure out a way to decrease exposures, we would probably decrease concussion. The other idea was to try to increase education, and that became important. And then certainly the idea of not only educating athletes and coaches, but also educating and making sure that the enforcement of rules was occurring. So, there are rules that exist currently in certain sports, and making sure that they're called, making sure that they're enforced, and really trying to make sure that from an Ivy League standpoint that those calls weren't being missed and that they were going to be penalized. The idea for a contact sport like football or lacrosse to decrease exposures is pretty straightforward. I think what became challenging is as you start to look for sports like soccer, where there's not as much contact, and or a sport like women's ice hockey where there's no contact, or women's lacrosse where there's absolutely no contact, it became a little bit more challenging. So in those sports, it was the Ivy League core group as we met and our subcommittees, subgroups. It was really a matter of trying to enforce, again, the educational piece, as well as trying to think about how these injuries occur in the sports and decreasing, thinking about techniques and thinking about things that we could do from a strength and conditioning standpoint that might be able to diminish concussion.
I think definitely the awareness just in the last decade really has increased. I think we're much more conservative, and I think in how we deal with injuries. And I think our medical staff has a very specific protocol that they follow that I think helps protect this student athlete from going back too early, or they're very slow to re-engage, I think, which is really helpful, I think, to protect the student athlete.
Specifically in football, they decreased the number of contact days allowed, which was, for us at Princeton, it really wasn't a significant change because our coach already had cut back on the number of contact days that we had. For lacrosse, it was, again, diminishing the number of contact days for men's lacrosse. And then for other sports, it was really a matter of, again, trying to ensure that our athletes and coaches were given education. The referees are aware of issues as it relates to head injury, and making sure that, again, proper technique as it relates to heading in soccer in terms of dueling, going up for an aerial challenge, or for lacrosse stick checking.
There's other components to our recommendations, particularly in football and the other sports. When we get to that, there's an educational component. Obviously, to make sure student athletes know the signs and symptoms of concussions and the need to report those, but also to really educate about the possible long-term consequences. And particularly in some of our contact physical sports, our student athletes are taught to play through injury. Play through a twisted ankle if you can, certainly a thumb or whatever. Concussion is not an injury that our athletes can afford to play through. And so we have to educate them regarding that message. Not only the player that actually gets hurt and is concussed, but his or her teammates, so that they say, you know what, you're not right and we don't need you playing. That actually hurts you and it hurts our team right now, because then if you get hurt again, that's going to hurt our team, or if you're not at 100%. But the bottom line is to create a climate where student athletes are more willing to report their concussion symptoms and whether they're continuing.
I think our student athletes are much more aware of the dangers associated with concussions, and it's not a situation where kids are faking it. I mean, I think the tests that they put the athletes through, I think forces them to really be honest about how they're feeling. So I think there is more awareness, and it isn't about kids toughing it out anymore, where I think that might have been the case a few years ago. I think the kids are really upfront with how they're feeling, and again, I think the testing is done in such a way that it's hard to fake your way through.
The third component of our football recommendations is probably not my favorite part of the job. It has to do with the post-game review of targeted hits in football. And this is an NCAA requirement that's been in place now. This is the 4th season it's in place, where if a targeted hit or a personal foul involving a helmet-to-helmet hit is called during a game, we have to review that video and decide if additional sanctions should be taken. As part of our Ivy League football review, the president's charged me with taking a very stringent view of that review and imposing suspensions when there's intentional or reckless play. And so that's not the fun part of the job, but it's an important part of the job. And I have had to impose a few suspensions, and it's something that's important for the student athletes' welfare and safety. And I do think it serves as a deterrent if our athletes know that there could be consequences for a reckless or dangerous hit. In lacrosse, we also are considering adopting a post-game review of certain plays to see if maybe there should be suspensions for particularly dangerous or intentional hits that involve the head. And what we did this past season is collected video to see the quality of the video, and then when we meet with the coaches throughout this year, we'll talk about how we could implement the program. It's a little more complicated than in football, because in football, the games are they're once a week. Particularly in the Ivy League, we don't have very many midweek games. And so we have time after a Saturday game to review the video and decide to whether or not we need a suspension and get the word to the coach in time for them to prepare for the game. And in lacrosse, we do have more midweek games. So we have to figure out the timing and the logistics, but we think this is a direction we may be heading. It's really too soon to tell, because people will ask, we are collecting concussion data, and people will ask, well, are you seeing concussion rates go down? And actually, we may see them go up for a while. We just don't know, because there's a heightened awareness and a greater sensitivity to reporting the symptoms and diagnosing the concussions, and for the student athletes to report their symptoms. So time will tell. Intuitively, it makes sense. If they're hitting less, there should be less incidences of subconcussive or concussive hits that can cause damage.